Good guys versus bad guys. And I have a kind of like a subtitle there. How to understand the Bible in one easy lesson. On January 20, Donald Trump became President of the United States. I want to begin by acknowledging that there are things about Trump I do not like, don't care for. But I suspect that if I was alive in ancient Israel, I would have said the same thing about King David. And I suspect I would have said the same thing about Abraham. And I suspect I would have said the same thing about the Apostle Paul. Each of those I probably would say, I don't know about that Abraham guy, or I don't know about King David. There's things about him I don't like. And because even though it was God himself who selected David to be king of Israel, David still had flaws and shortcomings. And even though Abraham was called the friend of God, Abraham still had flaws and shortcomings. And even though God saw the importance of calling Paul, as he on his way to Damascus, to become a preacher of the gospel, the Apostle Paul still had flaws and shortcomings. In fact, in Romans 7:19, Paul says, "For I do not the good I want to do, and I do the evil that I don't want to do." So Paul said, there's certain things I want to do and I just don't do it. And there's certain things I do and I wish I didn't do it. And I don't think Paul was talking about immoral things. I think he's talking about things, characteristic flaws that we as human beings have. So even though Apostle Paul was a great minister of the gospel, it is possible that Paul did things that he didn't like to do. For instance, maybe Apostle Paul had a short fuse. People said, careful, don't get on Paul's wrong side. It's possible. He had flaws he wished he didn't have. Or maybe he was impatient. Or maybe Apostle Paul was jealous of Peter. I don't know. Maybe he was judgmental. Maybe Apostle Paul was sometimes rude. Maybe he was too demanding of others. Maybe sometimes he made a promise that he just had a hard time keeping it. I don't know. I'm not accusing him of any of those things. But those are human flaws that we all have. And so when he talks about having issues that in his life that he wished he didn't have, I don't think he's talking about saying, I'm really a pedophile, but I don't want to be. I don't think he's talking about stuff like that. He's talking about natural shortcomings that each and every of us have. So Paul says, I do things, I wish I didn't do them. It's kind of like that bumper sticker you see sometimes that says, my driving even scares me. So, the same type of thing. And there are other great leaders of the faith who had flaws and shortcomings. Caleb or Gideon. Gideon led the armies of Israel against the Midianites, but, Gideon had flaws. And Moses, he led Israel out of Egypt. But Moses had flaws and shortcomings. Jeremiah, who was called by God while still in the mother's womb, he had flaws and shortcomings. Samuel, just a child, was called to be a prophet of God. Deborah was chosen to be a judge of Israel. Miriam, the sister of Moses, the Bible tells us, was a prophet and leader in Israel, but she still had flaws and shortcomings. Mary, the sister of Lazarus, she wept at Jesus' feet and anointed his feet with oil and perfume. But she had flaws and shortcomings. So when someone comes to me and points out Donald Trump's flaws, it's meaningless to me. Of course he has flaws. Of course he has shortcomings. And in fact, I tell you what, I'm kind of glad they're pointing out Donald Trump's flaws and shortcomings, because when they're looking at Donald Trump and looking for his shortcomings, they're not looking at me. So it kind of gets me off the hook, you see. So yes, Donald Trump has flaws. He has shortcomings. So do you, and so do I. My wife, I'm sorry, Miriam, you have flaws and shortcomings. My children have flaws. Sorry, Jason and Rachel. My children have flaws. My grandchildren have flaws and shortcomings. There are things in each of their lives I wish I could change. But likewise, there are probably things in my life they would like to change also. And as much as I loved my mom and dad had flaws and shortcomings. And all my ancestors that have gone on before me had flaws and shortcomings. That's why we need redemption, because we all have them. So again, yes, Donald Trump has flaws, he has shortcomings. But, that's the way it is. But all the people that God have used throughout history, all the great men and women of God that have been used throughout history, every one had flaws and shortcomings. Every one. So we stop and consider the last 3 weeks since Donald Trump became president. We say you know people by their friends, but you also know people by their enemies. So ever since Donald Trump became president, there has been a perpetual rage. Ever since he finished taking the oath of office and said those final words, "So help me God," there has been a perpetual rage against Donald Trump. And the rage isn't really focused on Trump. As he says, I'm standing in their way. The rage is focused on white Christian Americans. And suddenly we got somebody who speaks on our behalf and an unlikely person. But God always uses it. Apostle Paul, gosh, he was out there killing Christians. Talk about an unlikely person. The Apostle Paul was out killing Christians, and God reached out and grabbed them by the nape of the neck and brought them to repentance. So many people in the Bible say the Bible's hard to understand. Not many people in the Bible. Many people say of the Bible is hard to understand. Preachers sometimes say, well, let me explain the Bible to you. But the reason the Bible is hard to understand for some people is because the preachers have made it hard. That's the way I see it. Because they made it all about religion. Now, okay, maybe I'm taking a lot upon my shoulders here, but all those people who are listening on the internet who said the Bible is hard to understand, I'm going to make it easy for you. All right? Here's the way to understand the Bible. There are good guys and there are bad guys. That's simple. The good guys wear the white hats and the bad guys wear the black hats. Here's an illustration. So, it's a war against good guys and bad guys. It's a war, the white hats against the black hats, between Christ and the Antichrist, between Israel, the anointed, and the heathen. So, we wear the white hats. So we're going to understand the Bible. We wear the white hats. Now, preachers, and I've heard it many times, you may have heard it too, perhaps. People say, Satan knows he's going to hell. He just wants to take as many people with him as possible. I've heard that many, many times. You, no doubt, have heard it all, too. Satan knows he's going to hell, and he just wants to take as many people with him. That's the big battle. And I have to say, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. For somebody to say Satan knows he's going to hell, and he wants to take as many people with him as possible, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Now, maybe they're right. I don't know, but I don't think so. So they say he wants to take people to hell, so he tempts them. And this is the big war that people have in strong their lives. He tempts them to say naughty words or drink alcohol or go dancing or a girl wearing shorts or girls wearing pants or some people drinking coffee or swearing or lying or stealing or jealousy or other things. God, Satan's trying to make you do all these things so you go to hell. Trying to make you sin. People say, Satan is trying to make me sin. Satan is tempting me to steal or smoke or drink or beer or whatever. Well, I don't see that. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily approve of people drinking or smoking or whatever, but that really isn't where the battle's at. Those times will cause people to hang out the wrong crowd that might lead in the worst sins. But the Apostle Paul says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. He's telling Christians, he said, listen, guys, the thing that's going to affect you and your future and your life is not these simple things that today's preachers talk about. He said, you are facing some huge, huge evil in the world. Spiritual wickedness in high places, against principalities and powers, against the darkness of this world. You're facing some demonic forces. He's telling you, you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. Now, I'm trying to make this simple. Not that you people here, because I'm sure everybody here already knows the simplicity of what I'm going to say. But for people listening to it on the internet, when you get this uploaded, we know that God made a covenant with Abraham. Recorded in Genesis 12 and Genesis 17. He made a covenant with Abraham. He took Abraham outside, it's recorded in Genesis 15, took Abraham outside. He tells Abraham, look in the heavens and count the stars. Count the stars. And Abraham maybe tried to count the stars. I don't know. I don't think if God told me to count the stars, I don't think I'd even try because there's just too many. I'm going to lose track really quick. And no doubt Abraham lost track. If he actually tried to count the stars, he probably lost track very quick. And so I can't count the stars. Then he starts over again. Did I count the stars? No. So he made this covenant. He made the covenant, and the covenant is unconditional. Abraham didn't have a right to choose, I want it, I don't want it. Abraham, here's a covenant, you got it, deal with it, so to speak. Abraham didn't have a choice. It was given to him. It was unconditional. We read in 2 Chronicles. And the people he made this covenant with, they're the guys wearing the white hats. That's what we're talking about, the white hats versus the black hats. The children of Abraham and Sarah, who received this covenant, and all their generation, which includes you, all the children of Europe, are the good guys wearing the white hats, and they're in battle against the bad guys wearing the black hats. That's what the Bible's about. That's it. That's what the Bible's about. And the heathen are in rage. They're in rage against God's people. We read that in Psalms 2. Why do the heathen rage? And the people imagine a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, that's you, that the children of the covenant that God made with Sarah and Abraham and all their generation, that's you, against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. They're saying, we don't like your rules. We don't like your rules that you set up. And we set these bands up, what? To protect what? Protect our people. So we set up these laws of segregation and restriction and so on. And immigration, who can be among us, who can't be among us. And now we're called racist. And they say, we're going to break all those bands, all those things that restrict us. He that sitteth in the heavens will laugh. The Lord will have them in derision. So we see three things here. The heathen are raging. They're conspiring against the anointing of God. And the Lord is in heaven laughing at them. So, heathen are raging. This is the battle we're facing. I know we just read it. God said he's going to laugh at them. And I know God certainly laughed at them when he saw Maxine Walters and all those other creatures, rats, I think you referred to them, Jason, trying to pound on the door of the Department of Education, and Chuck Schumer's trying to start some stupid, silly chant. And I'm sure God set up there heaven and laughed at them. I know I did. I laughed when I saw Chuck Schumer trying to say, we will win, and he looked pathetic. Looked like a 30-year-old. So they were told the heathen will rage against the anointed. That's what the battle. Black hats against the white hats, the bad guys against the good guys. And so they rage. They raged, the heathen raged when Donald Trump took his oath of office. They raged when he abolished DEI in the federal government. The heathen raged when he abolished DEI in the military. They raged with anger when he nominated Pete Hegseth for the Secretary of State. They raged with anger when he nominated Pat Bondi to be Attorney General. The heathen rages. They raged when Tom Homan started incarcerating illegal aliens. They raged when he announced he was going to shut down the Department of Education. It seems like every day there's something else for them to rage about. They raged when he announced he was taking back control of the Panama Canal. They raged when on this past Wednesday he announced he was going to appoint a task force to investigate anti-Christian bias. They raged when he announced there are only two genders. They raged when he ordered that men will no longer be allowed to play in women's sports. They raged. They raged when he appointed Elon Musk to search out wasteful spending in the government. They raged when Elon Musk actually found, and his team of researchers found billions of dollars of taxpayers' money being wasted to promote woke ideology. They raged when he said, maybe we will buy Greenland. Now, he may not actually be able to buy Greenland, but that's not the point. When he said it, they raged. They raged when he announced that sanctuary cities would be punished for protecting alien criminals. They raged when he said he would put tariffs on Canada and Mexico. They're going to destroy our economy with the tariffs. Of course, we all know that they both buckle with the matter hours. They raged when he said DEI policies made air traffic or air travel more dangerous. And just last Friday, day before yesterday, they raged when he said he would punish South Africa for its human rights violation against the white population of South Africa. Trump said South Africa is guilty of discriminating against whites, Afrikaners who are descendants of Dutch and other European colonies. Trump said the South African government was allowing violent attacks against Afrikaners, farming communities. And they raged. Why do the heathen rage? It's because they're in rebellion against God. It is part of the satanic rebellion that has been going on since Satan began his rebellion, recorded in Isaiah 14. We've read this before. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? O son of the morning, how art thou cut down from the ground with this to weaken the nations? For thou said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation on the sides of the north. And we're not going to go into it now, but I pointed out in the path that's referring to America. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Now, all of my life growing up, I've always heard preachers say, and you probably also, that Satan was jealous. He wanted to be worshipped. He had a big ego, inflated ego, and he wanted everybody to worship him. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. When he said, I want to be like the Most High, he's not saying I want to be worshipped like the Most High. He's saying, I want to be the lawgiver. Satan wants to be the lawgiver, not God. So that's why there's an effort to change our laws. And we get upset about it, and they get angry why we're upset. You know, because we Christians put restrictions on their sin. We put restrictions on them. In their mind, their idea of what they call democracy is you get to do whatever you want. But Christians say, no, you don't get to do whatever you want. You're not going to come and corrupt our children. You're not going to trans our children. You're not going to put boys in girls' locker rooms. You're not going to do that. Satan wants to be the lawgiver. They say he wants to take people to hell with him. Well, like I said, that's the stupidest thing I heard. And maybe, I don't know, I guess it's possible. But Satan doesn't think he's going to hell. Here's the whole point. People say, well, Satan knows he's going to hell. How do you know he knows? I don't think so. I don't think Satan knows he's going to hell. Satan thinks he's going to go sit on the congregation of the mountainsides of the north. Satan thinks he's going to sit on the throne of God. Satan thinks he's going to rule. Satan thinks he's going to be the lawgiver. That's what he thinks he's going to do. He don't think he's going to hell. Because when you start a rebellion, I've mentioned this past. I hope you're not tired of hearing it. When somebody starts a rebellion, they don't start a rebellion thinking they're going to lose. They start a rebellion thinking they're going to win. Satan thinks he's going to win the rebellion. And so he's bringing this rage against Israel, the white hats, the children of the Most High, and attempting to bring about this white genocide. Satan seeks to become the lawgiver. He's dead serious about this. He's dead serious about this rebellion. He's not fooling around. He's got this rebellion against God. He intends to win the rebellion, and he intends to dethrone God. He intends to sit in God's throne, and he intends to rule over the congregation on the sides of the north. That's his intention. He don't think he's going to hell. The sad part about it is there is actually a way. You got to hear me out here. In Satan's mind, there's actually he got strategy. If you're going to have a rebellion, you got to have a strategy, right? He's got a strategy. Satan has a strategy to win his rebellion. There's three things he can do. Number one, he thinks, well, if I just kill God, if I kill him, I win the rebellion. So they put him on the cross, and well, that didn't work out the way he planned it, because Christ said, destroy the temple and I'll raise it up in 3 days. And he did. And so they thought, well, okay, that didn't work. Didn't work. The other strategy, because ultimately now, how did Satan win a rebellion? How can he actually win this rebellion? There's only one way he can win the rebellion, is if he can make God sin. Sound logical, don't it? Now, we don't believe he can do that. I understand that. But in his mind, if he can make God sin, then God becomes a sinner just like you and I. So, the strategy, make God sin. How does he do that? Well, you can't kill God, so how does he make God sin? Well, God made a covenant, didn't he, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah. And not only did he make this covenant that he says forever, but he also said the covenant, look to the stars in the sky and the universe and the heavens and the sun and the moon, and look at those things. Those are my witnesses to my covenant. All those heavenly bodies are a witness to the covenant of God that he made with our ancestor and to us, because he said to all their generation, he made it to us. And so, look at the heavens, the stars. God's whole integrity. The whole integrity of God rests upon this one question. Can he keep the covenant? If he can't keep the covenant, then God is a liar. He's a sinner. Because he said that all my witnesses. And if he can't keep the covenant, then God is a sinner and Satan wins the rebellion. So how does Satan make God sin? Now, not upon whether we think he can or not. In his mind, how can he make God sin? Well, there's two ways in his mind. Well, one way, if he can break the covenant. If he can make Israel so sinful and the people so repugnant that God just speaks them out of his mouth and said, I have nothing to do with these people anymore. He's got to break his own covenant. But we read it, I think, in Psalms 136. He repeats over and over and over and over again. He said, my mercy endureth forever. God's mercy upon our people endures forever. Satan has been unable for God to break that mercy. He can't do it. So Satan said, all right, I can't get God to break the mercy he has for Israel, the children of the covenant. I can't do that. All right, what's the next thing? The last thing. The very last thing, if he can do this, he wins. Because the whole integrity of God rests upon whether he can keep his covenant. If he can't keep his covenant, if he's lying, then God is a sinner. And he needs salvation the same as we do. What is the last thing he can do? If he can demonstrate that God is unwilling, if Satan can demonstrate that God is unwilling or unable to keep the covenant. If he can show that God is unwilling or unable to keep the covenant, then what happened? Satan wins the rebellion. That's a horrible thought to consider. But remember, Satan wants to win. He's got a strategy. Satan's no fool in that regard. He's got a strategy to win. He's got plans to win the rebellion. I couldn't kill God. I can't make God forget his mercy upon Israel. Aha. If I can genocide the people of God. If I can genocide Israel. If I can destroy their bloodline. If I can genocide them. And they are no longer a people God has proven he cannot keep his covenant. Or was unwilling to. So the heathen is raging against who? Against the good guys. The white hats. Our people. Because if he can genocide us, Satan wins the rebellion. So, what are you going to do? Well, one of the things he does, and there are many things, of course, we can talk about when you look at this concept of genocide, but we'll look at one here. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 43. The stranger, this is a curse upon Israel, our people, our forefathers, and upon us now. The stranger that is within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou wilt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Now, when this was translated by King James and other translators, they translated the word lava into lend. The Hebrew word is lava. And they translated it into lend because whoever would think that that white race would be genocided in 1500, 1600? I mean, we dominated the world. We dominated the world up until 100 years ago. Oswald Spengler, he was not a Christian, but he kind of had some insight. As early as 1932, when he wrote that book, Man Techniques, Oswald Spengler said, unfortunately, he said it's already too late for the white race to save itself. He said it's already too late. We've gone past the point of no return. The word lend doesn't mean, the lava doesn't mean to like loaning money, because that's what they thought back then. They translated the word lava lend. But it doesn't mean, the word lava means to be united. That's the main meaning of the word. But it was not used. It means united. He's going to be united against you, but you'll not be united against him. That's what he's telling us. The stranger within your gates will be united against you, but you will not be united against him. And we see this rage upon us today. The enemy is within our gates. Not just Negroes, not just Mexicans or Asians. We are invaded with people from Indonesia, Philippines, and Pacific Islands. The heathen is raging all about us. And we seemed to be powerless to do anything about it. Maybe Donald Trump is setting this done right. Donald Trump is not the answer, don't get me wrong. But it seems like maybe a pathway is opening up. And we can talk about that in depth on other issues too. I know when I was growing up, I heard many times people say, the trouble with the white people, they'll stick together. You've heard it. And that's what he said the curse would be. They'll be united against you, but you'll not be united against them. So, white people don't stick together. We're being genocided. We've seen our community destroyed. Millions of white people have fled their homes and uprooted their lives. They have destroyed our school system, lowered our educational standards, vomited their filthy, race-mixing, anti-white propaganda into our living rooms. Let me read a quote from Thomas Dixon. Now, Thomas Dixon, I'm afraid I'm going over time, but bear with me. We're a small congregation, so you walk the door, but we'll see exactly who you are. Thomas Dixon, I'm going to read a quote from Thomas Dixon. His diet was a very, very, very popular lecturer and preacher, minister in the country. He pastored the largest congregation in the United States. He wrote books. He's a minister, a very popular minister. Anyway, he wrote a couple books that are considered unacceptable in today's standards. He wrote one book called The Klansman. And here's what he wrote. Thomas Dixon. Since the dawn of history, the Negro has owned the continent of Africa, rich beyond the dream of poet's fancy, crunching acres of diamonds beneath his bare black feet. Yet he never picked up one from the dust until a white man showed him its glittering light. His land swarmed with powerful and docile animals, yet he never dreamed a harness, a cart, or a sled. A hunter by necessity, he never made an axe, spear, or arrowhead worth preserving beyond the moment of its use. He lived as an ox, content to graze for an hour. In a land of stone and timber, he never sawed a foot of lumber, carved a block, or built a house, save of broken sticks and of mud. With league on league of ocean strand and miles of inland seas, for 4,000 years he watched their surface ripple under the wind, heard the thunder of the surf on the beach, the howl of the storm over his head, gazed upon the dim blue horizon, calling him to worlds that lie beyond. And yet he never dreamed a sail. He lived as his fathers lived, stole his food, worked his wife, sowed his children, ate his brother, content to drink, sing, dance, and sport as an ape. And this creature, half child, half animal, the sport of impulse, whim, and conceit, plays with a rattle, trinkle, or a straw, a being who left to his will roams at night and sleeps in the day, whose speech knows no words of love, whose passions once aroused are as the fury of the tiger. They have set this thing to rule over us. Mindful God, merciful God, it surpasses human belief. The stranger within our gates has got above us very high. And we have come down very low. We're not united. And the rage of the heathen now is helping to unite us. Where they're going to go and where they're going to transcend to, I don't know. I don't see the future. God doesn't tell me what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, or next year. But we're all aware that we're moving in the direction of a white awakening in this country. Isaiah 56, I'm going to close here, I think, very quickly. Isaiah 56, the leaders who are to guard the people are blind. They don't know what they are doing. All of them are dumb dogs that don't know how to bark. They lie down and dream and love to sleep. They are like hungry dogs that are never satisfied. They're like shepherds who don't know what they are doing. They all have gone their own way. All they want is to satisfy themselves. So that's why the preachers of our nation, they don't care about talking about white genocide. They don't care about talking about what the harm that's happening to our people. They just don't care. But he that sitteth in heavens is laughing. He's laughing. All their plans to destroy the anointed people of God will fail. So the Bible is hard to understand for many people because the preachers have made it complicated. The Bible is simple. It's a war, a rebellion against God's people. It's the black hats against the white hats, the people of Satan against the people of God, the children of Israel. And Jesus Christ, we are told in Luke 1:72, I believe, Jesus Christ came and he remembered the covenant. In our darkest hour, he remembered the covenant. And he had defeated the rebellion. Now we are left, and this is my final comment, we are left, and our brothers and sisters are left with the choice. We can either join the rebellion or become an overcomer in the battle for race, faith, and homeland. Amen. Our Father, we thank you for this day and for blessing our people and blessing our lives. Even the heartaches we have Paul said, rejoice in all things. Even the heartaches we have, compared to your mercy that you bestowed upon us, we can't compare. The mercy you show upon us each and every day of our lives. Father, we ask you to keep us strong. Help us be eternally grateful for your love, and eternally grateful that you have remembered the covenant given to our forefathers. In your name we ask you. Amen.